Your brain decided something about your phone before you ever chose to pick it up. Not a preference, not a feeling, a decision. Faster than language, faster than thought. Happening in the part of your brain that decides what is dangerous and what is yours. Apple engineered that decision on purpose. In 2006, before a single prototype existed, two men inside a near-bankrupt company were having an argument nobody else in the building thought was worth having. Not about the processor, not the camera, not the price. A corner, specifically, the exact curve of a corner. Measured in pixels, argued about for hours. That corner is sitting in your pocket right now. It changed consumer electronics forever. It triggered a billion-dollar lawsuit. And the first time you ever touched it, it did something to you that you have never consciously noticed. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never hold your phone the same way again. Cupertino, California, 1997. Apple is 90 days from bankruptcy. The company that invented personal computing is dying. Ugly products, no strategy, a stock worth almost nothing. And then Steve Jobs comes back. Fired from his own company 12 years earlier, he walks straight to the one place nobody in Apple's leadership had bothered to visit. The design department. At the end of one of those hallways, a quiet British designer named Jony Ive. Ive had been producing extraordinary ideas for years. Nobody had looked at them. Jobs looked. What followed was one of the most obsessive creative partnerships in technology history. Two men. One shared conviction that the details nobody else thought were worth fighting for were the only details that truly mattered. Jobs' wife Laureen later said that Steve and Jony would sit together and discuss corners, rounded corners, for hours. Not the processor, not the camera, not the price, corners. And here is where it gets genuinely strange. Before the iPhone was built, before a single prototype existed, Jobs and Ive already knew that the curve of its edge would determine whether people loved it or merely used it. They understood something the entire smartphone industry had completely missed. But what neither of them could have known yet was that a brain scanner in a university laboratory was about to prove them right in a way that nobody expected. January 9, 2007, San Francisco, 9 a.m. Steve Jobs walks onto a stage. The crowd erupts before he says a word. What nobody in that auditorium knows, what the entire world doesn't know, is that the iPhone in his pocket is broken. The engineering team has mapped out a golden path, a precise sequence of actions Jobs must follow without any deviation whatsoever. One wrong tap, and the phone crashes live on international television. One of the engineers has smuggled a flask of whiskey into the building. He takes a sip every time a feature works. By the end of the presentation, he is drunk. Engineer Andy Grignon later confirmed that the iPhone shown at the 2007 keynote could only play a short section of any song. The full clip would crash it. Every app shown was incomplete. The greatest product launch in corporate history was performed on a device that technically did not work. But the crowd sees none of that. What they see is a man who swipes a screen, and the screen moves. Smoothly, naturally, like water. Like something that had always existed and was simply waiting to be found. And at every corner of that screen is the curve. Gentle, deliberate. The exact curve Jobs and Ive had argued about for hours. Nobody in that room understood why it felt different from every phone they had ever held. Their brains already knew. Let me show you what was actually happening inside every person in that room. Back to a 2006 brain scanner study. Psychologists Moshe Bar and Neta showed people two sets of objects, sharp corners, rounded corners, and watched their brains in real time. Sharp corners activated the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, the part that fires when something is dangerous, when something is wrong. Your brain reads sharp corners as a physical threat, not as a thought, as a neurological event, faster than language, faster than reason, happening below everything you're conscious of. Rounded shapes do the exact opposite. They activate your brain's reward pathways. They signal safe, warm, touchable, mine. And this preference is not cultural, not learned. From infancy, before language, before advertising, before a single brand loyalty has formed, babies show a strong natural preference for curved shapes over angular ones. Think about every smartphone Americans carried before 2007. The BlackBerry, the Motorola Razr, the Palm Treo. Every single one is sharp, angular, businesslike. They felt like tools you used at work and put down at home. The iPhone felt like something you wanted in your hand on a Sunday morning. That difference lived entirely in the curve of a corner. Jobs and Ive had not read that study when they designed the iPhone. They worked on pure instinct, pure obsession. Hours arguing about a detail the entire industry had decided wasn't worth an hour. And they got it exactly right. Within 2 years of the first iPhone, every major smartphone manufacturer on Earth rounded their corners. Samsung, Google, Sony, all of them. Not because Apple owned the shape. Because they watched what happened when people picked up an iPhone for the first time and saw something in there, faces no spec sheet could explain. Apple sued Samsung in 2011 for copying the rounded rectangle. A $1 billion lawsuit about a corner. Do you still think those hours of arguing were a waste of time? Here is the thing about Jony Ive and Steve Jobs that nobody talks about. They were not the smartest engineers in the room. They were not the best technologists. They were the only people in the room who refused to stop caring about something everyone else had decided wasn't worth caring about. A corner, pixels, hours, arguments nobody witnessed, while a company was dying, while the world was watching something else. And now, 2 billion people carry that argument in their pocket every day. Most of them will never know it happened. Their brain already knows. It knew the moment they first picked it up. Pick up your phone right now. Run your thumb along the corner. Feel that? That is not industrial design. That is neuroscience, disguised as a corner, built by 2 people who cared about it for hours, when caring about it made no obvious sense at all. Nothing is ever just what it looks like. Here is what I want to know from you. What is that one object you use every single day, which you have never once thought about who designed it, or why it looks the way it does? Drop it in the comment section below. Your answer might be the next secret we unlock together. And if this changed how you see your phone, drop a comment below. I read every single one. Subscribe, because next week, the object is something you look at every morning. And after next week, you will never see it the same way again.